Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I am Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Join me on this episode of the Dynasty Podcast is Sam. How you doing, my friend?
And I am doing awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm exhausted. It has been a long day. I'm not going to lie. It is TGFBI day at the end of it, the tail end of it.
Yep.
Drafts kicking off. We had a 2-day Potapalooza event over the weekend. And I am about as beat can be, but that's okay. I'm here talking to you. How are you doing?
That's right, man. I had a long day. In my professional life, I had a delivery vehicle go down 40 miles away from my house. So I had to drive out and go save them and figure that out. I'm in several drafts. I'm in 2 first-year player drafts on Fantrax and a couple Dynasty leagues I'm in a draft and hold for the Kangdo Kings leagues. I'm in the Rook division, and I'm putting those together. Today is TG FBI day, so we started drafting. I want to give a shout out to my friend Andrew Jurowitz. He's drafting 5th in my league. We write together over at the Dynasty Guru, and he started out Trey Turner, and then he went Edwin Diaz, and then he went Emmanuel Clase. And so the cojones on that guy, I just want to give him a shout out and say, damn you for making me take Devin Williams early. It was rough, but I loved it. It was fun. It's, drafting and watching actual spring training baseball and seeing highlights on Twitter that aren't replays from the fall or from some winter league somewhere else that I don't have access to, that I can't go see. That I'm so happy. I'm so happy baseball is back here, and I'm looking forward to just sucking the marrow out of this season, man. And this weekend was a blast, by the way. Thank you. I had a great time. You let me host the fantasy panel, and we had some great guests. We had Mike and Bryson and Drew, and just had an energetic conversation. So I'm doing great, man. I am riding high on baseball. So
it's that time of year where we got baseball on TV, we got baseball on our computers, we got baseball everywhere, and we're gonna talk some Dynasty baseball. We're gonna talk middle infielders today.
That's right.
And why don't we just jump right into it? What is your general approach with middle infielders when you're drafting for Dynasty?
Well, I get really nervous about how quickly second base drops off, and getting in on that run of elite shortstop pitchers. I think that there's still lessons to be learned out of redraft for the Dynasty landscape. You really want to make sure that you have some performers up the middle. And so I tend to target second baseman. I still am in love with Jose Altuve, even though he's in his 30s. For second base, if I was starting up a Dynasty team, he would be the second baseman that I would be going for. I want that production, that elite 4-category production. And he even ran again last year. So we might be running from him with the new rules over the next couple of years. Shortstop, there's a lot of different ways to go. I was really in a couple of years on Willy Adames, and he has really blossomed into one of our big power hitters at that position. I really am excited about Xander Bogaerts. I'm really excited about Trey Turner still for the next 3-5 years. There's probably a dozen names there that are really foundational for a roster that deliver 4 or 5 categories. And the prospects at that position are, it seems like it's a never-ending fountain of names coming out of the minors year after year at shortstop that really deliver. We've really had a great era. This isn't like 2000 when there was only a few shortstops that you were really looking at, and once you went by the big 3 to 5, there was nothing there. And so, take your pick at shortstop and strike early at second base. That's the way that I feel about middle of infield. But even with that, there's tons of late round picks that are really fun, that are multi-positional, that allow for a lot of roster flexibility. And so, middle infield is a deep, fun position with lots of players to talk about. So I'm excited about it.
It's amazing. I was talking about this during a panel at Potapalooza, and I was saying, like, I don't think a lot of the younger audience remembers like just how bad shortstop was of a fantasy position. I mean, shortstop was, I mean, I was gonna say like catcher, but catcher is even better now. But shortstop was a position where, like, oh man, you were like, if you didn't get one of those top guys, you were like, you were getting a guy who was probably hitting 220 and probably didn't get double digit home runs. Maybe you got some stolen bases, but stolen bases were aplenty with guys like Chone Figgins and Scott Pasednik in the league, stealing a bunch of bases. And so it's amazing to see the turnaround. Because I mean, even just in the time that I've been in the industry, the last 7-8 years, like shortstop has become this amazing position when it was the weakest position, or at least non-catcher position in fantasy for a long time. So it's pretty cool to be in this era. And like I said, there's more coming up, year after year. It's just going to get better and better. Second base is a disaster. It is a nightmare of a position. In Dynasty, a lot of these shortstops that are coming up to the minors will end up at second. And so it should thicken up at some point. But for right now, at least, if you're trying to compete in a Dynasty league this year, second base is a bad spot.
Right. It's bad. And yeah, we had Miguel Tejada, Nomar Garciaparra, Alex Rodriguez, and Derek Jeter. And if you didn't get one of those four, you were shit out of luck, man. It was just good luck, have fun. So yeah, it's been a fun position to look into and to roster. So I'm ready to chat about some people. It's a nice thing. What do you think about when you're doing middle infield? How do you approach that for Dynasty? Is it more the same thing where you want to get in early at second base and then make sure that you get one of those shortstops that you really like, or are you more particular about shortstop than I am?
It's not that I'm particular about shortstop. I think there's some pretty big cliffs, and I think there's a pretty big advantage to getting one of the better ones. And I'm not necessarily saying like the guys that you're taking the first round or two of a draft, the Bo Bichette's, the Trey Turner, and stuff like that, but like I've been in a bunch of redraft leagues this year where I've waited too long on shortstop. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm starting CJ Abrams. Now in a dynasty, that's all right, because I still believe in CJ Abrams long term. But in a redraft league, that's not what you want. Or you end up, I mean, I have one league where like I waited so long on shortstop, and then a run happened right in front of me, and like Mondesi is my first shortstop, and then I had to like draft like Luis Urias and a couple other just like random dudes to be like, well, I hope Mondesi comes back, because otherwise I'm in some trouble at shortstop. So I think shortstop, it's a deep position at the top. It's not deep at the bottom.
Yeah, the three things I heard from that are, shortstop is deep, but don't get lulled into a false sense of security. Make sure you strike when you can. And you drafted Alberto Mondesi. So literally anytime you need to call this season, you need any consolation, I'm here for you.
I appreciate that, because that and it's hard because I really like the rest of that team.
Hey, he could come back from his injury. Isn't he supposed to be back now by May or June?
Oh God, who knows at this point? But let's jump into some of our shortstops. Who are you targeting in Dynasty if you're rebuilding, or if you're looking for a prospect? And then give me a deep prospect.
Okay. Well, for middle infield, I'm going to focus in on the Cleveland Guardians pair of Ahmad Rosario and Andres Jimenez. I've been targeting those two everywhere for the last couple of years. And I want to give a lot of credit to Keaton DeRocher over at TDG also. He's somebody that pointed me towards Ahmad Rosario at the beginning of last season. Ahmad Rosario is really a hit over power kind of an infielder, and that seems to be the Cleveland Guardians way. I don't think a lot of people remember that Jose Ramirez started out the same way, and I'm not saying to confuse the two players, but Jose Ramirez was a hit first infielder that they didn't believe had a lot of power, and he's blossomed into arguably the number one pick in redraft for most people. And so, he's got just this great foundation. He hits the ball hard. He doesn't walk a ton, and he does strike out a little bit, but he does hit the ball well. And so, especially in batting average leagues, Ahmad Rosario is just a great player to have. He's a 15-15 guy, I think, perennially, with a ceiling season of being 2020. And with the new rules for running and base stealing, I'm expecting him to have a small jump with that, because Cleveland seems to be active on the base paths, and he in that lineup also seems to be active on the base paths. And then I'm a real big fan of Andres Jimenez. Ahmad Rosario is 27. He's entering into his prime physically, or he's in it. Andres Jimenez is only 24. He's a left-handed pull hitter, does really well at that park in Cleveland, and then does really well also on the road. He just is a really solid hitter. He takes more walks and doesn't strike out as much as Ahmad Rosario. But again, I think he's also suited. He's a little bit better in an average league than an on-base league, but he won't kill you in either. He is going to be somebody that is going to really fill in that second base wasteland for you. I have him in Dynasty as a top 10 overall second baseman. I think actually I have him well within the top 10. I have Andres Jimenez overall at 4. I'm a believer in his metrics. I'm a believer in the speed. I'm a believer in the hit tool. He hits for pop. And where Ahmad Rosario for you is a 15-15 guy and is a really good backup shortstop and really good to plug in at that MI position if your league has middle infield eligibility. Andres Jimenez is your second baseman for the next 5 years at least. I just don't see him having a problem. Like you said, second base is a wasteland, so there's nobody that's going to be really pushing him for that spot in Cleveland. He's young, and so he's got years of team control. I think they're just going to let him sit there and do his thing. Defensively, he's great. So I really like what Cleveland has going on in real life. And in Dynasty, I've tried to get both of those players together wherever I can, because they really just contribute to all 5 of your categories. And that's really, you want glue players there at that middle infield and that second base spot. So go get them today. I think that for where their value truly is, that they're undervalued. I don't think the market's caught up with either of them yet. So,
yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, I'm a big fan. I was a big fan of Jimenez last year. I was drafting him outside the top 300 picks in a lot of redraft leagues prior to people kind of catching on and his price going up. But even then, the price was still pretty good. Rosario, another guy, like I just feel like people were kind of sleeping on him. I love his contact ability, love the speed. I love that both of them are not zeros in power. Like I don't see like a ton of progression from them. Like I don't think there's another huge level for either, but like I think they're going to keep a lot of the gains we saw in 2022, and I think they're going to be stable forces. I'll be interested to see. I think Rosario is a free agent at the end of the year, so I'll be interested to see where he ends up.
Right.
But I also think he, because he can play other positions too, like he's going to be a pretty hot commodity on the market as long as he doesn't have like a bust type year this year. So yeah, I like both. I think they're both kind of names people don't think about when you're drafted the middle infield.
No, and I agree with you. I think that they're high floor, lower ceiling kind of guys, but I think Jimenez of the two of them has a real opportunity to take another step forward. He's young, and I've seen Cleveland do it before. So
yeah.
So for prospects, I've got a couple names for shortstop. For Teams that are looking to take a step back this year and kind of rebuild. Some younger players that I really like are at shortstop. I like Ezekiel Tovar for Colorado. He's 21 years old, and he's again that mix of pop and speed. He does have some questions with his hit tool, but he did hit last year. He hit 300 in the minors all year, and he is projected to make the Colorado Rockies roster. And I don't see a lot of people getting in the way of him. The only thing that makes me nervous about Tovar, I'd say, is the organization. They have a track record the last 6 years of really getting in the way of themselves for prospect development and for playing time. Right when you think you see Ryan McMahon is going to have a clear path to playing time, they'll sign 3 veterans that have no business still playing regularly. So, Matt Mervis's situation aside in Chicago, I'm hopeful that they stay out of the way of Ezekiel Tovar in Colorado. The other player that I really like is Nolan Gorman, actually. He's a second baseman with St. Louis. He's 22. He had a really rough year adjusting to major league pitching. His average was really low, but he's got a ton of pop. He hits the ball hard when he makes contact. He's got good barrel rates. His defense is what's another thing that's kind of keeping him out of regular playing time. And there is a guy named Brendan Donovan that plays for St. Louis, 26, who does not strike out and walks a ton. He's got a great plate discipline, but he has absolutely no pop at all. There's just nothing to that bat. You might disagree, but I haven't seen anything in anything that I've looked for.
He made a swing change this offseason to try to unlock some more pop. He's already hit a monster home run in his first game of the season, and he looks stronger. So this kind of is a stance change and swing change that allows him to use his lower half. This is Brendan Donovan I'm talking about.
Yes. No, absolutely. And that, I would believe that because St. Louis is one of those organizations that I trust to develop.
Yeah, I do too. And he was a guy that I was not very interested in for fantasy, that I'm now becoming a little bit more interested, especially because he may be hitting second in this lineup too. So
really,
yeah. So this is
what are they doing? Edmund. Why is it Tommy Edmund at the top?
I think Edmund's going to be at the bottom of the lineup, to be quite honest. I'm a little afraid of Edmund in fantasy. So, but Brendan Donovan's a name to be wary of and think, especially in your deeper leagues, because he could end up being kind of an empty average guy with runs scored. But if this pop is real, then it's not a major pop. Like we're talking like, hey, 18, 19 home runs type thing. But that still is
better
huge.
Than that's
if he's sitting second in arguably the best lineup in baseball, Brendan Donovan becomes really, really interesting. I like Gorman a lot. I really like Gorman a lot. And I was huge on him. I've got him in both of my dynasty leagues.
Right on. Yeah, no.
He needs a trade like nobody's business.
He might need a trade for sure. I was going to say that Brendan Donovan and Paulie DeYoung isn't going to hold him back from playing time, but Brendan Donovan has a phenomenal hit tool at the plate. He just can't. Before this offseason, he couldn't get any power. It was all empty. It was all singles and not enough magic like all Ichiro singles. It was, pretty blasé. And so if he's developed a hit tool, that could make that very interesting. I still like Nolan Gorman to bounce back a little bit with his batting average this year. I think he got a little bit of hard luck last year. I was looking for him to step forward and end the year as a second baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals, to be perfectly honest. But it'll make it interesting. St. Louis has got a real just shit ton of fun toys.
Yeah.
Juan Yepez.
They're going to be a problem. I mean, they are super loaded. I mean, to the point now where you're looking at this team, and I don't know that Dylan Carlson even makes the team.
Oh, God, no.
And this was everybody's favorite prospect coming in, was last year, I think it was. Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be a really, really interesting season for them from a dynasty perspective. You've got, a guy. If Brandon Donovan's taking a step forward, they still have Nolan Gorman, like you mentioned, but like, what do they even do with Gorman this year? Because like, I think this is a really good time to buy low on Gorman, because I think there's a really good chance he could be sent down. Because like you mentioned, his defense is atrocious. That's his main problem. He came up as a third baseman, was clearly blocked after the Arenado trade. They've tried him at second. It does not work. And I think with the new shift rules, you want a good defensive second baseman.
I agree.
And so, like, I think his future is probably as a first baseman, but not in this organization with Yepez and Goldschmidt there.
Oh, yeah, Yepez is going to replace Goldschmidt at first base.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, if he ages out of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Gorman's real path to success as a dynasty asset is being traded. And I think if you wait until opening day rosters are announced and Gorman's not on it, that is the perfect time to strike on a deal for a guy like Gorman.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Nolan Gorman is that he's only 22 years old, so he still has plenty of time to develop and to continue to work on his craft. That's a little upsetting for this year. I'm happy for Brendan Donovan. I don't want to boo a player, but I really thought this was going to be a sneaky year for Nolan Gorman because nobody was talking about him. But
yeah, I wish, but it's just like I said, if he was on in a different organization, maybe there is a trade that can be worked out. Maybe they package a Gorman and I don't even know who, like maybe a Gorman and a Carlson. They package that, send them off for a starting pitcher. Miami would be a really interesting location for both those guys. Maybe Miami wants to move one of their starting pitchers. It could make sense.
Miami just signed Gene Segura, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're going to play Segura at third is what they originally said. I don't know if that's changed now that they moved Jazz Chisholm into center field. And I mean, who cares? Like if fair
enough.
I know they signed Segura to a 2-year deal, but like if you're bringing in a former top prospect like Gorman and giving him an opportunity, you're giving him an opportunity. Like so, the Dodgers would be an interest. Considering Lux got hurt today, like maybe that's a spot where the Dodgers and the Cardinals could come to some sort of agreement on. Like it looks like Lux could be out for the season if that injury is as bad as it looked.
Did you see that? That just looked
it's brutal. I've got Lux in a number of leagues already, and so this is already a huge bummer for me.
Congratulations. Can you just put out a board of every team that you draft so we know who's going to get taken out with the injury?
It's just unreal, dude. Like just unfair. I'm glad you think it's funny.
I'm thoroughly amused, but I'm easily amused. I don't know what to tell you about that. So I do want to talk about a prospect who I saw last year at Everett playing for Vancouver, and he's a prospect that's been in Toronto's system for the last 5 years. He actually got busted for PEDs back in 2019, and he came back after 2020 and had a real interesting 2021, and then took off in 2022, and that's Addison Barger, shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays. I watched him hit these 2 mammoth home runs off of, I forget who was pitching that day. It might have been Mako, but I don't think so. And I just had to figure out who this guy was because it seemed effortless for him to hit that ball as hard and as far as he did. And the kid is real interesting. He plays decent defense, and he's got a decent hit tool, and he can rake. I see him being a 25-5 guy at shortstop or second base. And there is a couple players playing for Toronto right now, Kevin Biggio and Whit Merrifield, that I'm not super confident is going to hold any hot hitting person down. And so Addison might not start off the season with Toronto, but he's a name that you should be acquainted with from the AL East. He's got it, and I think he's going to end up. He may end up only being a utility or whatnot, because they do have him blocked. I don't think that there's anything that's going to happen with the shortstop that they currently roster. But I could see him playing second. I could see him playing third. I could see him playing outfield. I could see him getting somewhere in the lineup to get that bat in. And like I said, I don't think Whit Merrifield or Kevin Biggio are holding anybody back. I think they're on their way to becoming utility players. So if not the league, if you're Kevin Biggio. So
I like that call. I mean, they still have Santiago Espinal as well. But Barger's a name to kind of put on your watch list to kind of see what happens.
Yeah. Espinal is interesting, but I don't think Espinal is more than a super utility or a bench.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I don't think in the time that he's been in the majors, I don't think he's done anything to show that he's more than that.
So yeah, I agree.
I'm not as interested in him. The last player that I want to talk about as the last two players that I want to talk about as deeper prospects are actually, I forgot to mention the second baseman, Edouard Julien from Minnesota. The other prospect, not deep prospect, that I'm looking at. He's 23 and he is Canadian. I always like when I'm looking up a player and I find out something fun about him. So born in Quebec, he's a graduate of Auburn University, or at least played baseball at Auburn University, where he was and still is a 5-tool category and contributor. He in 2021 hit for the year, his slash line was 267, 434, 480. He's got this insane walk rate. Like, you cannot throw junk by him and have him swing at it. So what did he do for 2022? He raised his batting average 35 points. He hit 300, 441, 490. You're looking at a legitimate 3-4-5 hitter, 300, 400, 500 slash line hitter at second base. He's got pop. He hit double-digit home runs, and he's got speed. He can really fly. So if you get somebody with that kind of a slash line hitting 15 to 20 home runs, stealing 25 to 30 bases a year, you're looking at a first or second round talent every year in the draft for redraft. And in Dynasty, this is the time to pick him up, because if he does anything when he makes the next step, and that will be playing in Minnesota, you're not going to be able to afford him on the cheap. And I still think that he's a name that people are sleeping on a little bit, because he is in Minnesota and he's at second base.
All right, so here's the problem with Julien. So Julian's a guy we saw down in Arizona Fall League. He was actually in the home run derby, which was weird because he's not known for his power. He's known for exactly what you said, which is taking walks. I mean, he's had not just double-digit walk rates. His lowest walk rate in the at any stop in the minor leagues is 19.3%.
Yeah.
He's insanely passive, Edouard Julien. So the problem is he's too passive.
You think?
Yeah. And in spite of his passivity, he hasn't really shown a ton of good contact ability in the minor leagues. I know he hit 300 in Double-A, but he was also like 22, 23. And his hit tool doesn't grade out to be great yet. And so, like, I think it'll be interesting. He's gonna start the year in AAA. And I do think that especially with Jorge Polanco's injury issues, and then kind of he struggled even when he wasn't healthy last year. Like Edouard Julien could find himself in the major leagues at some point, but there has to be some contact improvement. And that 300 batting average was propped up by a 393 BABIP.
He's
so
fast.
He is fast, but I don't think he's 393 BABIP fast.
He probably isn't 393 BABIP fast, but he did hit in 2022. He did hit 17 home runs in AA. So we're not talking about zero pop. He's
not as. I mean, he was in the home run derby. They had him. I mean, he had enough pop at Arizona Fall League where they thought that was a good idea. And I really thought we might get our first ever walk in the home run derby. Yeah, I mean, like I said, he was old for the level. I think Triple A will be a good test for him, but I'm not as excited on him as you are.
Well, I think that passivity is just him getting comfortable. He may have some old man in him where it's going to take him a little bit of time to come around, sniff the coffee and whatnot. But I think that he is going to be a little bit more aggressive this year. I think he showed that he was making steps to do that last year. I think that's why his batting average went up. I think he finally is getting somewhere now. Minnesota isn't, again, I always go back to the organization. I don't think that they are necessarily a top tier development organization for positional players, but they seem to be able to get a good amount out, especially out of their infielders. I really liked Luis Arias when he was there, although he was mostly just hit. He wasn't as much power as I would have liked. So we'll see. But I'm interested in Julien for second base as a prospect. I think he's somebody who is definitely a buy low for right now, and somebody who, if he does have that uptick with being aggressive, we will see him in the majors, because I don't think that Polanco's in a position to fend anybody off anymore. And Minnesota seems to be in a little bit of transition in their infield. They've got their outfield figured out pretty well, but I'm not as convinced that Minnesota's settled on who they have playing right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think he could definitely force his way up to second base. I think the only other issue is they have other guys who could try to force their way up to second base. Austin Martin's still there. Royce Lewis, he's recovering from another injury, but at some point he could be up. And so Julien, I think, is a really interesting prospect, especially because he does have a very good eye at the plate. It's an elite eye. This is 80 grade ability to judge the strike zone. I just worry that he is going to get attacked in the zone. Pitchers are just going to be like, listen, we understand you can take a walk, but we want to make sure you can hit the ball too.
Right.
So I think he's going to get attacked. I think he's one of those guys, though, that could probably walk at a 15% rate in the majors. And even if he hits 230 in an on-base percentage league, you're not going to care.
No, not at all. And I think, to your point, even if he was walking underneath that, even if he was walking at 12%, but it allowed him to tap into some more aggressive swings, unlock something at the plate, you also wouldn't care, because that's still a pretty big bump for getting on base. So takes a walk at a home run derby contest. You're killing me.
It wouldn't surprise me. If anybody's going to do it, Edouard Julien's the guy.
Okay. So my deep prospect is a Mariner named Axel Sanchez. He was in low A last year. He's 19 years old. But in 33 games, he hit 305, 401, 618, 8 home runs, and 4 stolen bases. The thing that the stat lines don't talk about is the buzz that he's getting from the organization to a person. When you read interviews, watch film, talk to people, listen to what's going on, he hits the ball hard. He's playing really good defense. He can stick at shortstop. They feel he's really advanced for the level and for the age, and I'm really excited to see him start out this year in High A Everett. I want to get my eyes on him and watch him play for a while. But I don't think he's going to finish the year in High A. I think he's going to end up in Arkansas by the end of the year, and he's somebody that I think that we need to keep our eyes on. I'm buying the buzz. I think that there's, from what I've seen and from some of the people that I really like, he feels like he's legitimate, and I think that there's a lot of different names that we're hearing out of the Mariners organization that are up and coming. Axel Sanchez is the one that I'm really excited about in the infield. I think he's got a real chance to be a hit and a speed guy. So just keep on the lookout for him. Watch him this year. I promise you, if he does anything at a game that I'm at, I will come back and we can talk about my love for Axel. So,
well, I'm definitely going to be interested to hear because I have him in my super, super deep Dynasty league. So yeah,
you'll like it.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear what you think once you get to go see him play. What else you got for me?
Well, that's it as far as players I'm looking at. I was looking for some really deep second base prospects, and all of them I felt like on a certain level I had to talk myself into versus, feeling like what I was getting was mostly noise and signal. So I don't have any deep sleepers for you at second base. There's a bunch of names that I have some interest in, like How You Lee. I believe he's with Philadelphia. Spencer Steer might end up at second base. He's interesting. Justin Foscow. We even have Emmanuel Valdez, who I believe went to Boston this last year. Some players like Michael Massey, who's getting playtime in Kansas City. And I don't even know if he qualifies as a prospect. I don't remember if he crossed over 130 at bats last year. Zach Neto, I'm interested in him a little bit, but he's probably going to end up at shortstop with Anaheim. Those are all names that I like, but nothing that I felt compelled that I had to talk about and really share the love on.
All right, let's play some red light, green light then.
All right.
Who are some players coming off of down or mixed years or in new situations that either like or dislike?
Well, one of the players I'd like to start off with is Whit Merrifield with Toronto. He still has really good plate discipline. His strikeout rates are low. As far as metrics go, his speed is still good. He's still fast, base to base, and his defense is still there. We're seeing a loss, though, of his ability to hit the ball and hit the ball hard. And really, the game is more than just being able to play defense, and you have to get on base to go base to base. Given his age and some of the players that we were talking about before with Toronto, and I think Toronto's need to be a win now team. I think they're in their competitive window, and I think that they feel that. I'm not as certain that Whit Merrifield's going to get enough playing time to be considered, one of those top second basemen that we had been looking at the last 5 to 10 years. That, he always seemed to accumulate a ton of at bats in Kansas City, and at the end of the season, he had enough hit and he had a ton of stolen bases. 2021, he had 40 stolen bases, or was that 2021 he had 41 stolen bases and only 5 caught, I believe. That he was still a 40 stolen base guy, but I don't think we see that anymore. As a matter of fact, I think we're seeing the very end where he's transitioning from being a full-time player to a role player, and pretty soon he's not going to be playing. And so for Whit Merrifield in Dynasty, I'm completely out. I have no interest. I'd have to be a winning team picking him up off a fab or trading a late round draft pick for him and having him be on my bench as is this his last year? Did I get one more year out of it? But I don't think I don't think you're going to get a good 3-year window. I don't think he's a good player to acquire. And if you're making a roster decision at the, for roster cuts, because you got to get your roster to be legal, he's one of the players that I'd let go of. I'd let somebody else deal with him on their roster.
Yeah, he's a player that I would even sell low on right now. Like, it's like if anybody's willing to give you just about anything, I just the bat speed definitely slowed down. He no longer is going to bat at the top of the lineup. I don't know if they're going to let him run at the bottom of the lineup. He did not run in Toronto
at all
once he got there. I think he had 2 total stolen bases after he was traded. And I know there's been talk about Toronto wanting to run more with new base running rules, but are they really going to want him to run in front of Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And I just don't know that Merrifield has the upside that we've seen. And I think, especially if he's not running, if Merrifield's not running, then he's worthless. Like, he's absolutely worthless. He's empty average at the bottom of a lineup. And what you said is really, really true. He derived a lot of his value from his speed and his ability to accumulate because he's the top of the Royals lineup.
Right.
And if he's not at the top of the Blue Jays lineup, which does not look like he's going to be, and there's no reason for him to be, Whit Merrifield is useless in fantasy.
Yeah, he's yes. I was going to compare him to another player on this list that probably isn't going to survive either. But yes, he's, unfortunately for me, I would want to watch him on another person's roster. And that's, I think, the same way I feel about Vidal Brujan, who is a 25-year-old player for the Tampa Bay Rays. In 2021, in AAA, he stole 44 bases and was caught stealing 8 times. And that was really his calling card. He was, again, one of these really fast second basemen that didn't have the hit tool as much as he had the speed tool. And so, we look at 2022 and he didn't do as well. He was 26 out of 39. He got caught stealing 13 times. So his success rate was 2/3, 66%. And then once he made it to the majors, he attempted 10 steals and he got caught 5 times. And so he only had a success rate of 50%. I also don't think he hits well enough to not get platooned in Tampa Bay. If even getting the small side of a platoon, he might become a utility, a pinch runner. I don't know if we see a lot of success with Vidal Brujan in a Tampa Bay Rays uniform. Maybe if he gets traded to another organization, somebody might have some patience with him or be able to unlock something in that hit tool. But I'm really not in on Vidal Brujan. And just like you said, with Whit Merrifield, I would try to trade him for whatever I could. I know that there's somebody in a league that probably still thinks that Vidal Brujan is worth something, even if it's just his name. And so I would sell him.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
You Brujan? Let's talk after the show.
Okay. So Brujan is a guy that I've just always loved. I always felt like, okay, there's enough power in this bat for him to get 15, 20 home runs, and there's 40 to 50 steals in those legs. The problem has been the contact, and has not been able to figure out how to make contact at the same levels that he did in the minor leagues. He just gets overpowered at the plate. It's not a matter of of him not being able to pick up certain pitches. He just gets overpowered. He's a good enough defender that I think there is a chance he can stick as a super utility guy for Tampa Bay. And maybe if injuries happen, he finds himself in a closer to full-time role. But it's a really hard to see that working well at this point.
So Joey Gallo without the walks or the home runs?
Well, I mean, he's not. I don't know that he's Joey Gallo bad. That's just mean. It's the hard part. I mean, on the bright. Well, actually, I was just about to say on the bright side, I think he's out of options, so I can't send him down. But I just checked, and he still has an option left. I mean, on the bright side, he did only strike out 23% of the time in the majors last year.
Yeah,
and I mean, he had above average zone contact, actually pretty decent zone contact. So,
What was his average exit velocity?
Oh, probably nothing. I mean,
60 miles an hour?
it was 86 miles an hour. So I mean, not good. He just he Yeah, I mean, there's speed. I think there is a hit tool in there, but I almost wonder too, like if he has kind of just the problem that we saw with Nick Madrigal, because I mean they had similar profiles as guys who profiled as, hey, he's gonna make contact and he's got speed for days, and he at least Bruhan wasn't supposed to be punchless, but so far pitchers have just decided, hey, listen, we don't care if you hit the ball because it's not going to go very far. And that's a problem. I mean, he's one of those guys though. Like, if power develops because he's still young,
Right.
then he's only 25.
Only
Just turned 25. If power does develop, maybe he just needs to find a weight room. He could become dangerous because he does have 70 grade speed. He has shown the ability to hit for contact in the minors and really in the majors. Like, he can hit for contact. The problem is he's got to get it over the second baseman's head. And
Yeah.
that's been a problem.
Yeah. So like I said, if we were in a league, I'd be trading him to you 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, in one of my dynasty leagues, I traded for him last year, and I've regretted the trade because one, he's past his rookie limit, so I can't like stash him in my minor league. And two, I gave up what is now a super high second round pick, which would be really valuable in this draft. So someone preyed on my love for Bruhan, and it's unfortunate for me.
Yeah, I think that is definitely, in Dynasty, it's a lot easier to play with your heart than your head for some of these prospects where it's like, he's in my minors. I want to draft him or I want to trade for him. I'm dreaming on it. We'll forgive you for that. Second round pick
is hard. It's hard too when you've liked a guy for so long,
right,
to get that out of your head in Dynasty. And you like, in the pros, like, you at least get to see them play on a regular basis. And you can go, oh, I see what's wrong here. Whereas minor leaguers, like, you get attached to some of these guys, and it's like, but you're not necessarily getting to see them play on a regular basis unless you're a prospect hound, and you kind of forget, oh, these guys sometimes just don't develop the way you thought they would,
right.
and you'd be able to cut bait. And I have a hard time with that.
Well, it's really tough too because you want to think that development is linear because you see a number of players go through linear development, and there's a number of people that teach you and remind you that no, linear, it's not. Development's not linear. It's not A, B, C, D for everybody. And when we talk about outfielders, I've got somebody that I'm in love with named Jonathan Clase, who's got 80 grade speed, and it's all about, will that hit tool continue to develop? Will that allow him to play in the majors? Because he's the fastest player in the Mariners organization. He's just, it's ridiculous to watch him run around the bases, but it doesn't matter if you don't hit the ball. So
yeah, absolutely.
Also, we have John Birdie, 33-year-old second baseman, third baseman, outfielder, super utility for the Miami Marlins, who last year stole you 41 bases. He was amazing. He did great. The problem is that there's not really a real playing place for John Birdie. He's great in OBP leagues, but he doesn't really do a whole lot for you in average leagues. And I don't think that he gets enough regular at bats to make him somebody that you can plug and play even in a daily league. That you have to have a daily league to have somebody like John Birdie that he's going to be starting that day, so you can push him into your lineup for steals. Unless we're playing in a league that's deeper than 15 teams, I think that John Birdie or you're on a team that is desperate for runs and you're playing to win the league that year. I don't think John Birdie's making it on my roster for roster cuts. And again, uh, selling to whoever I can get something for, if I'm at all rebuilding or playing for next year. Some on base leagues, he's interesting. He might make it through green light in those, but I'm also not very excited about John Birdie.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I want to find the next John Birdie. I don't want last year's. I don't want to pay for last year's John Birdie.
Right.
And that is always the thing for me, is a guy like this who you can't say he appeared out of nowhere, because Birdie's been around for a while. We've always known what Birdie can do. He's had a few years where like he gives you, a month's worth of steals that that helps you win your league. That being said, like, you got him off the waiver wire last year. There will be a new John Birdie this year.
Right.
It'll be some 27-year-old or whatever that nobody thought about, on draft day, that was dropped in May by someone else and then picked up in June, and he goes on to steal 15 bases in 2 months and
Miles
helps you when you're yeah, exactly. Like, I want to find this year's I want to find the next John Birdie. I'm not paying for last year's. Yeah, you should.
Right. And again, the problem with this is that I'm looking at these for 3-year windows, and I just don't see any kind of real return on investment for John Birdie in a 3-year window.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, Brendan Rodgers, Colorado Rockies. This is somebody that I still think is pretty attractive. I like Brendan Rodgers as somebody who can get shot by the nice red light lady. He doesn't steal you any bags, and he's got beautiful StatCast metrics, but we've never seen him put it together on the plate. We've never seen him be able to be consistent over a year. And again, I'll go back to, he's playing for an organization that during his time where he should have been given run and ability to learn, I think they messed with him. He was one of those players during the mid 2000 teens coming up for Colorado that we didn't get to see the best of him. And I think that there's a young wave of talent coming up in Colorado. It's going to wash out these middle infielders that we've had. Didn't they just release? There was Brendan Rodgers, and what was the name of the other dude that was in the up the middle with him? Not Ryan McMahon. Why can't I remember his name?
I mean, they had Story, but
no, they just released him.
I don't even know who you're referencing.
Oh, I'm feeling old right now. It's completely gone. But there was Brendan Rodgers and another guy. They released the other guy. Brendan Rodgers is still playing for Colorado, but I think that he's on borrowed time. I also think that Brendan Rodgers, in spite of his ability to hit the ball hard and decent plate metrics, I just don't see. He's never put it together, and I think that we would have seen something before now, given as much time as he's been up in the majors with Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. Like, I've never been a Brendan Rodgers guy. And I continue to not be a Brendan Rodgers guy. And there will always be a Brendan Rodgers apologist, because they will see what he did in the minor leagues and go and dream that at some point that's going to happen in the majors. Here's the thing we need to remember about Colorado Rockies prospects is every single one of their stops is just like Colorado, which means they're launching pads, they've got thin air, they're easy places to hit, and they inflate minor league numbers. And this is one of the things that happened with Brendan Rodgers. And so people are like, oh, look what he did at AAA and in Colorado Springs and Albuquerque and all these places where you just launch the ball into the air and it goes out. And then he gets to Colorado, which, yes, the ball travels far in the thin air, but that's a big outfield. Because that ball travels very far in the air, they had to make sure those fences were back. And like, he's a boring, empty average guy with injury problems that doesn't run. Like, I don't care. Like, I still don't care about Brendan Rodgers. I thought you were going to start apologizing for him for Brendan Rodgers and started telling me he was a green light, I was going to get very, very angry.
No, you can go ahead and get angry if you want, but it was him and Garrett Hampson, the player that I was thinking about.
I fell for Garrett Hampson a few times.
Well, I think that both of them, we saw what happened with Story and Arenado, and they really had some up and coming talent, and they had a great foundation, and I really felt like they were going to fill in some of their infield and outfield questions with some of this great young talent, and neither one of those bats ever really came around. And I think Garrett Hampson got released this offseason. I think he's
on Miami.
Okay, he got picked up.
He might be the next John Birdie in Miami.
I love it.
Like, he's the kind of guy that, he could steal 5 bases in a week, and all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, look, it's Garrett Hampson season again. So, like, if you look, like, that's the kind of guy that you pick up off the waiver wire that, steals you, 5-7 bags in 2 weeks, and you're like, yes, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. He could be this year's John Birdie. I think the last red light, green light guy is one of my Mariners, JP Crawford. JP was a really highly valued prospect, broke in with Philly and got traded to the Mariners. And a couple years ago, Jerry DiPoto came out and said, that's my shortstop. Just like Terrell Owens, he put on sunglasses, was crying. He's like, that's my shortstop, man. That's my shortstop. Don't be talking about my shortstop. And we've had 2 off seasons where they've had awesome free agent shortstops that were available to sign in the league. And Mariners both times said, no, JP Crawford, that's our shortstop. He's not my shortstop. This is a player who's never hit 10 home runs in a season, who's never stolen 10 bases. He plays some really good defense. But I will tell you anecdotally, as a Mariners fan, every time he hits a home run, he will have an error in the field. So you actually don't want him to hit the home run because you don't know if that's going to happen. And then he's going to lose the game for you or make it more interesting. I like his swag. I like him as a clubhouse leader in real life. I like him at shortstop. There are some metrics that show that he's really good playing defense. And, we've got a pitching staff that really, I like that they've got a strong defense behind them, that the Perry Hill, our infield defensive coach, seems to be a miracle worker at every one of those infield positions. Outside of catcher. But I don't want him. I don't want him in fantasy. He can't do anything. There's nothing that you're going to get. You're not getting a benefit in batting average. It's just average. You're not getting any counting stats at all. Any of them. There's just so unfortunately this week in red light, green light, everybody's getting shot.
You know what? I mean, here's the thing. Like, I was really just waiting for the green light. But you're right on all these guys. So, like, I mean, JP Crawford is just a boring accumulator without any sort of carrying tool. And now that the Mariners offense is so good, there's no way he can bat towards the top of the lineup. I don't care. Yeah.
I so want a different shorts. I mean, I like JP in real life, so yes. But as somebody who plays the fantasy game, I'm conditioned to want players that are going to produce fantasy value because these are players that have offensive value, that are doing things to make their real life teams win. And I feel like shortstop is so wide open these days in the majors that we could get somebody that would be 85%, 90% of the glove that he is and is 200% of the bat. So,
yeah.
As a fan, it's a bummer, but what are you going to do?
All right. Well, let's move on to the rankings debate. Let's start with second base. Why are you so high on Vaughn Grisham?
I'm high on Vaughn Grisham because I saw the work that he and Ron Washington were doing for defense. I really am a big fan of Ron Washington. I thought he got a real shitty deal at Texas. I think he was turning them into a perennial winner. I think that if there's anybody that's going to turn Von Grisham around defensively, it's going to be Ron Washington. And I don't worry about his bat. I worry about his glove keeping him on the field. He's still young, so he still needs some time to prove himself at the plate also. But I like his bat, and Atlanta seems to like him well enough to let the cards fall this year for shortstops and for other players. I know that they've accumulated a couple players to come in and play with them. Is Arcia there now, and somebody else that's in their infield rotation? I don't see anybody with Atlanta making that move. I don't see Anthopoulos making a trade or a signing to move him out of the way. I think they're trying to get out of his way and let him play. So I like him a lot. I think that kid's got some moxie.
Okay. I think they're a little bit high on him personally for me, especially when you have Jonathan India outside your top 20 at second base. Explain that for me.
Jonathan India is such a waste. And if it wasn't for him playing in Coors East, he'd be even lower. Wow. I think he caught lightning in a bottle at the beginning of 2021, and everybody was like, "Oh, look at this guy from Florida, is so great, and we love him." And God, Jonathan India can hit the ball, and no, Jonathan India is not good. I don't think that Jonathan India is going to be anything but a super utility when their next wave of prospects come up in the next couple of years. I think that he will become trade bait. Cincinnati will trade him to somebody else, and you might see him in Pittsburgh or Miami. I'm out on India. I don't think he's.
I don't understand this. I don't think you could be any more wrong about India. I think he's shown really good contact skills, even last year, which was a disastrous season because of injury. Like, he still had like an 88% zone contact, 111 max exit velocity. Like, this is a guy who can hit for contact and has got power in that bat. Like, he's probably going to be hitting towards the top of that Reds lineup, which, it's not a good lineup by a stretch of the imagination, but it's not a bad lineup either. And it's a great park. Like you said, Coors East. I don't know how you rank him so low.
What do you think he's going to hit this year?
I think he'll hit 250.
220?
250.
Yeah, 220. I think he'll hit 220, 230. I don't think
even in a disaster year, he hit 249 last year.
So he'll hit an empty 240 at best.
No, he's getting bat second in that lineup. Brandon Drury is batting second, was on pace for 100 runs in the Reds offense last year.
Brandon Drury caught lightning in a bottle and used it to move to Anaheim. I'm super happy for him. I'm not in on India. Do you want to make a bet? I'm happy to either bet stupid human tricks or money. What do you want to do?
Oh, stupid human tricks for sure.
Okay. So the loser, what do you want? What do you want? I've got one in mind, but I don't know if it's too extreme for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The loser of the bet has to video them humping the ground 5 times.
I mean, that is really stupid.
That's stupid human tricks, but it kind of alleviates the need to want to make dumb bets. Like if you're forced.
Listen, I'll do that if you agree to buy and wear a Justin Mason bathing suit at First Pitch Arizona.
Well, you don't have to bet me to do that, but sure, I'll make that bet with you.
So wait, what is the bet though? Is he a top what second baseman this year?
Okay, so we need to make the bet through a redraft angle because we want.
Yeah, it's for this year, obviously. Yeah.
Okay. So barring injury, he has to play at least 120 games.
Sure.
I mean, I'm asking you, do you want it to be a per game pace, or accumulation over the season?
I think just accumulation is fine. I don't, I'm the one taking the risk on that. So I don't mind taking the risk on that.
Okay. Then I'll let you name where you think he's going to be above. I don't think that he's a starting second baseman in a 12-team league. So he's going to finish second baseman 13 or less this
Well,
year.
I mean, he's going second baseman number 13.
Okay, then I'll go second baseman 18.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah. So 17 and a half. He finishes 18 or lower, you win. And 17 and higher, I win.
You're happy for easy money. Thank you for that money. That's the gambling degenerate that I am. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, who's the next guy?
So hold on, real quick. What is the payoff for me? You're gonna hump the ground.
I'll hump the ground. Yeah, you can video me humping the ground all you want.
And then if I lose, I'm wearing is that the only thing I'm wearing?
Yeah. Justin Mason bathing suit, baby.
I can't wear anything else. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You need to make sure you have a double X.
Oh no, you're gonna buy one.
Oh Jesus Christ!
I want you to own this.
Okay.
Literally own this.
Okay. I'm willing to do that for you. Let's go.
All right. Appreciate it. All right. I'm asking who you think the next guy is. I think that's good on second base. Let's go to shortstop. And I don't have a major issue at all with your shortstops. Maybe you're a little bit low. Oh, whoa, yeah, here we go. Why are you so low on Wander Franco?
Why am I low on Wander Franco? Well, we've had a couple years to see him do something, and he hasn't. And so I'm starting to move him down.
I can't rationalize him being below Carlos Correa.
Carlos Correa has done more than Wander Franco has. Carlos Correa is an injury risk, and they wouldn't sign him to the big deal, neither San Francisco or New York. So, Minnesota signed him to the 6-year deal. We're talking about a 3-year window. I think over the next
you don't have Franco as a top 10 shortstop in Dynasty.
Not at all.
That seems crazy to me.
Well, I will tell you,
got an 80 grade hit tool.
Talk to me about Jared Kelenic.
Oh no. I mean, this is
75 hit tool. Like, I'm not whatever. Like, I want to see Wander put it.
I'll talk to you about Kelenic next week. We'll have that conversation next week. Yeah.
Please and thank you. Yes. No, I don't think that Wander has what everybody's excited about. He's either got the average, but he doesn't really have the power, and he doesn't really run a lot, or he's got some power, but his batting average seems to suffer. I don't see anything where you're going to get this consistent player where he's hitting over 300 and he's hitting a ton of bombs. I think our best case scenario for Wander Franco is a 320 hitter that hits low teens home runs and steals about that many bases, if not less.
I think you're crazy.
I don't think that's exciting at all. Well,
he's a 21-year-old who in 2 seasons has hit 282 at the majors.
I think that's great.
I mean, and we know that he hits the ball hard. I mean, we 112 max exit velocity last year.
But other than I can understand you asking about Carlos Correa. Other than Carlos Correa, who in front of him that I have, can you make a really strong argument that Wander Franco's been better than and is going to be better than?
I mean, I think he should be in front of Swanson, and I like Swanson. I think he should be in front of Adames, and I like Adames. In Dynasty, I think you have to. I think he is, if everything comes together for him, and obviously that's an if, right?
Yeah.
He's 21 years old already, just 21 years old. Then he's potentially a first-round pick in fantasy, and none of those guys are.
I would let somebody else take him first. He'd have to do that for me a couple of years ago.
I can understand putting Witt in front of him, and Turner in front of him, and Tatis and Bichette. and then I have a really hard time not putting him 6.
Yeah, I would absolutely take Xander, Corey, Willie,
I
Carlos.
think, especially if you're trying to win right now, I get it, but I would. There's no world I'm taking Xander Bogaerts over him. I'm just not.
Well,
Like,
I think over the next 3 years, Xander Bogaerts is going to be is definitively going to be hitting at the top of a really good lineup. And we're still saying what if about Wander. It's still a what if.
I don't know that definitively Xander Bogaerts hitting the top of San Diego. I think San Diego's lineup's so good he's hitting 5th.
Isn't he projected right now to be leading off for him?
Not once Tatis comes back, I don't think.
Yeah, that's a whole other bag of wax. I had if anything in my rankings, I feel like I was pressured by the industry to have Tatis ranked so high. If I had any beef with my rankings, I'd actually want to push Tatis a little bit further down.
I think you have to have Tatis high just because of the upside alone. Like he legitimately, this is a conversation you and I had off air about my wife's TGFBI team, because she had an opportunity to draft both Tatis and DeGrom in the 3rd round, and she was asking me like what I thought, and I said they could be the best players of baseball. They could also be nowhere close to that, and so I think it's super hard to not rank a guy high when they are in the majors, have shown the ability to be the best player in baseball, even with the risk.
I just disagree about shown the ability to be the best player in baseball.
On Tatis?
Oh, sorry. I thought we were talking about
no. Tatis. No. I'm talking.
Oh yeah, Tatis for sure. That's the only reason that I have him so high is because Ted.
But I do think Franco has. I mean, I don't know that he's ever going to be the best player in baseball, but Franco has the hit tool to be one of the best players in baseball.
We have absolutely seen him do that in the minors, and he did things as a teenager that were unreal. I don't want to take away from Wander Franco, but I think that having him in the top 12 is indicative of what a talent he is at shortstop, given how deep that is.
This is a crazy conversation because if you probably don't know this, but those who have heard me talk about Wander Franco for years have heard me talk about like how much I think he's an overrated fantasy commodity, and now somehow I'm defending him.
And I've never heard you say that once, so I find it funny that you're on the other side of that.
Yeah, I think this is an example of the fantasy community, and not just you necessarily, but just in general, the fantasy community buries guys that don't succeed to our expectations right away.
Well, how is being the number 12 shortstop burying him? I just
because he should be 6. I mean, like it just
he needs to put a season together where he acts like he's that instead of just everybody saying that that's who he is.
Oh man, I mean.
What are you gonna do? He doesn't hit 300 this year, and he only has like 11 home runs, and that's still a real possibility for him. But that's not unreasonable. That's not me saying like I'm hating on him. That's literally
you hate him. You hate him.
I'm such a hater.
You hate him.
Evidently.
Oh, let's see. Other O'Neal Cruz, you got him fairly low. Yeah, especially considering his upside, because he has done something in the majors.
So, and that's the thing, like, with both of these players, rankings are not, set in concrete, and new information will change things. And I really love O'Neal Cruz. I still have some concerns, and I really want to see him put a full season together where all of the things are happening for him. Both him and Wander could be top 10 shortstops for me at the beginning of next year, going into the 2024 season. Like, I could see both of them having great 2023s and really saying, we're here. You have to pay attention to us. I could also see O'Neal Cruz hitting 220 and really struggling.
Yeah. I understand. I mean, this one I think is more defensible because the hit tool is a super big question. And And it's not going to get any easier for him because he's like 6'6". Like he's not like a yeah. So like I couldn't remember if it was 6'7" or 6'8" or 6'6". Yeah, I mean he's just so big. Like there's just so many, but like, and we know there's a hole in the swing. Like, but man, when he makes contact, it goes far.
I will say this for his height. He is very athletic and graceful for that size. That I thought that watching him, because I read about him and I saw, stats about what he had done before I'd actually gotten to watch him play baseball. And I'll say that watching him play shortstop, he doesn't, other than being awkwardly large at the position, it doesn't feel like he plays the position awkwardly. So I think that there's a chance that he sticks there defensively, that he doesn't move to the outfield like they talked about when he was a prospect. So, I mean,
I think long term he's gonna have to move somewhere. Like I mean he's just too big. Like it just.
Yeah. But he looks good. I mean, watch him this year again. He looks smooth at that spot.
I think by the metrics, he was one of the worst defensive shortstops in the league.
Come on.
I'm not a big defensive metrics guy. I think defensive metrics suck for the most part, but I do remember someone saying like that because like Ke'Bryan Hayes was like by the metrics was one of the best third baseman defensively, but that was offset by the fact that O'Neal Cruz was awful.
Well, they both played for Pittsburgh, so
yeah, there you go. All right, I think that is gonna wrap it up for this episode. Sam, remind everybody where you reached and what are you working on?
Okay, well, you can reach me on Twitter at SamFBB1. Right now I'm working on my sanity. I'm not as busy as you, but I've got, like I said, I'm in 4 or 5 drafts right now and have some real fun things going on in real life with the store. So getting ready to hopefully start another location and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm busy behind the scenes on things that aren't baseball. But I'm working on, I've got an article that I said I was going to send it out last week, but we're going to do a middle infield and a corner infield. I'm going to release both of those articles by the end of this week, hopefully when this podcast drops for everybody to listen to. I've got middle infield ranks that I'm going to be dropping on Friends with Fantasy Benefits. And I think that's it. That feels pretty busy. Other than TGFBI and doing drafts, what are you doing? What are you busy with?
Oh man, what am I not busy with? Let's see. You can find me on Twitter at Mason FWFB. Email me or the show, friendsoffantasybenefits@gmail.com. I'm writing daily at Fangraphs. I'm writing pretty close to daily at Fantasy Pros. TGFBI is going on right now. I spent most of the night fixing the ADP sheet that I somehow messed up earlier. Though by the time you listen to this, when it comes out, I think probably on Wednesday or Thursday, it'll be long since fixed. Let's see. Yeah, I got other stuff going on, but that'll wrap it up for me tonight. For Sam and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
Peace and love.